The importance of overlooked what is should not be taken for granted. Parts such as the head and the neck are necessary for the whole body. After all, motor and sensory information along with the nutrients passes through the neck to the head, making it to the processing center of the body. In celebration of Head and Neck Cancer Awareness Month, this episode will be dedicated to widening one's comprehension and understanding of this specific topic. This is Pau Cruz, your host for today's episode of Lifeline, where we improve your lives by feeding our mind. Today's episode, we are joined here by our radiation and oncologist, Dr. Michael Mejia from the UST Hospital. Good day po, Doc, again, and welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we are very much looking forward to talk about today's topic, which is the head and neck cancer. So, Doc, I am shocked nga kasi actually, ngayon ko lang narinig na meron palang neck cancer. It's possible pala, Doc, no?
Yes. Actually very common in this part of the world.
Yes. I am aware of the head cancer, but not really much of the neck. So perhaps with that being said, let us formally start with our first question. What are the head and neck cancers, and can you walk us through some of the different types, Doc?
Okay, so if we talk of head and neck cancers, the cancers that are located right below the brain and right above the collarbone. So everything here, there are different sites, no? And each of the sites, cancers in each of the sites behave differently. So there are cancers of the mouth, there are cancers of the oropharynx, which is at the back of the mouth. There is a cancer of the voice box, we call it a cancer of the larynx. There are also cancers of the nasopharynx, which is right behind the nose, cancers of the nose, the salivary gland. So everything in the head and neck region can eventually
So parang different parts ng head and neck, no? Meron pwedeng possible magka-cancer.
Yes.
So as a radiation oncologist, Doc, which among the different types of head and neck cancers you see as the most prevalent in your field?
Well, all right. So when we say the radiotherapy facilities, especially here at UST, a lot of the cancers that we see are in what we call the nasopharynx. So it is that area right behind the nose and right above the palate. So there's like a cuboidal space there. It's called the nasopharynx. So we see a lot of that here, especially in the Philippines, because it is endemic in Southeast Asia. We also see a lot of the cancers of the voice box and tongue, especially in patients who smoke and in patients who drink. So those are the ones that we see most often.
Yes, we will tackle about that later. So, Doc, next question ko po is, what are the symptoms or signs associated with the head and neck cancers?
The scary thing, Pao, is that some of the cancers, like the most common that we see in the nasopharynx, all of the symptoms are very, very frequent. Some of them just present with neck nodes. So, kalat na yun if it's a neck node. Some of them present with nose bleeding or decreased hearing. The easiest to detect might be cancers in the voice box because the patients suddenly become hoarse. So the doctors have a high sense of suspicion to have a look at the voice box. Sometimes cancers of the salivary glands will present as a bump, as a parang doc may bumubukol. And then it is easy to just get tissue. So again, it depends on the site, no, of where the cancer is. That's where the symptoms come out. And it can be from no symptoms at all to something that is very, very disturbing, like difficulty in swallowing or changes in voice.
Pero Doc, dun sa mga nyo na hindi naman siya ganun talaga na easily recognizable, how do you differentiate these cancer symptoms from other normal bodily pains? Kasi may tendency tayo na magpanic agad or make up conclusions.
Yeah, actually that's problem in diagnosis. Number one, the doctor has to have a high index of suspicion, right? So if let's say nag-nosebleed lang yung patient, Of course, we're going to think of it as a benign nosebleed, and most of the time it is. But if there are like accompanying symptoms, like the patient is bleeding from the nose, it's happened quite often already. There are hearing. The good physician can detect lymph nodes as small as half a centimeter. So it is very, very dependent on the index of suspicion of the attending doctor, of the first doctor na pinunta. And some patient, we don't know. Karamdam ng pagdurugo ng malat, sinasabi, madalas lang ako makikipagchismisan sa kapit. So also for us patients, if I'm going to be a patient, I have to be aware, of is this already abnormal sa katawan ko, and then seek medical help also.
Kaya importante talaga, Doc, na magpa-check up din talaga kapag may nararamdaman kang kakaiba sa katawan mo.
Yes.
Okay, so next question, Doc, is among the diagnosed people, among them, most often are yung mga younger people or yung mga older people?
Okay. Good question, no? Related cancers, meaning in the smokers, in the drinkers, we see later in life. And that is because of the accumulated effects of all of the chemicals, the toxins, the carcinogens in the tobacco or in alcohol. But there are some cancers, like the nasopharyngeal cancers, that we do see in like 30, 40-year-olds. And the lifestyle, because a lot of the nasopharyngeal cancers that we see are non-smokers or moderate drinkers. So, but again, they were diagnosed because may bumubukol na sa leeg. Doctor just happened to stick in a telescope and they say, uy, may bukol ka dito. No? So again, it depends on what caused the cancer and what are the risk factors of the patient in developing cancers as well.
Ito, follow-up question ko lang, Doc.
Sure.
How about vapors?
No, because vape is a new thing,
Okay.
right? So basically it just came out in the last, 5-10 years. And remember that developing cancers take 20, 30, 40 years. In my generation, which is I think a lot older than yours, we started smoking, our generation started smoking 3rd year, 4th year high school, and then eventually developed the habits. So that's 18, 19 years old. So from the time you start smoking until the time you develop cancer at your 50s, 60s, or 70s, that is the time lag. So when it comes to vape, we won't know until about 20 years from now.
Yes. Thank you very much, Doc, for that answers. I'm sorry. And I'm sure these newfound information will be essential for our next segment for later, called Mythical Operation, where we dissect facts from misinformation. Now, Doc, for this segment po, we will be reciting some statements related to our topic a while ago, and you will tell us whether these are fact or myth. Ready na po ba kayo, Doc?
Game.
All right, let's start. First question, Doc, fact or myth? People who consume both tobacco and alcohol are at greater risk of developing head and neck cancer than those who use only tobacco.
Fact.
Fact.
Well, it's always cumulative, no? So the maraming bisyo, mas maraming risk. So if you add, tobacco, whether that is chewed or smoked, and then you add alcohol, may additive effects yan. But also remember that there are synergistic effect. Yung additive, di ba, 1 + 1 = 2. Ang synergistic effect, 1 + 1 = 3. So sometimes alcohol and tobacco can be synergistic in increasing your risk, not just for head and neck cancer, also lung cancer, also colon cancer. But yes, head and neck cancer, that's a fact.
Okay. So next question, fact or myth? So brain, eyes, esophagus, thyroid gland, and the skin surrounding the head and neck are considered to be head and neck cancers.
Fact. Although with the caveat of the esophagus, because we have just part of the esophagus that is in the neck, and most of the part is in the chest. So here at the UST hospital, we are what we call systems-based. So we have head and neck cancer experts, we have thoracic experts, we have gastrointestinal experts. So yung esophagus, and because they behave rather aggressively, pinagpapasapasahan namin yan.
So, parang naka-separate pala siya, no?
Yes, yes. And again, I won't bore you with details, but it will depend on, okay, will the patient land with a head and neck guy? Will the patient land with a thoracic or the GI guy? Because iba't iba yung evidence na ine-evaluate namin. That is up to the doctors, but also up to the general medical community. No? Especially the global medical community. Yung maganda dito sa UST Hospital, we have a lot of collaborative relations with international academic centers. So, iba't iba yung approaches, even in one site, like the esophagus here in the neck, iba't iba yung approaches, whether you see it from the GI point of view or from the head and neck cancer point of view.
So, let's jump to the next fact or myth question. Taking a human papillomavirus vaccine, or HPV, reduces the risk of developing head and neck cancer.
Maybe fact.
Maybe.
Fact. We do know that it already reduces the risk in developing cervix cancers. Right? We know that for a fact already because the clinical trials that just came out very, very recently, the epidemiologic trials show that it does help in decreasing the incidence of cervix cancers. The thing with some of the head and neck cancers, especially the tonsil, the back part of the tongue, a lot of it is also. But we don't know the way HPV causes the cancer. All right? So cervix cancers, the first epidemiologic studies were done in cervix cancers. Ngayon pa lang natin nakikita yung outcomes ng vaccine trials na yon. In women.
That's
It was
interesting.
only after that they said, you know what? So that we can see if it prevents developing head and neck cancers, specifically what we call oropharyngeal cancers. So we are waiting for that. Let's get vaccinated.
All right.
Conditions of the vaccination, which we're not going to get here right now. But yes, talk to your doctor about getting vaccinated for HPV, whether you or female.
Okay. So, magkaiba pa yun, Doc, yung...
Pwedeng magkaiba yung benefit.
Okay.
Magkaiba yung benefit. For women, it may protect both the head and neck and the cervix. For men, dahil wala kaming cervix, it may protect the head and neck also,
Okay,
specifically the oropharynx.
Right, let's jump to the last fact or myth question. People who GERD or gastroesophageal reflux disease has no relation with the head and neck cancer.
Number one, I don't know. Number one, I hope so because I have GERD.
Can you elaborate?
It's like a hyperacidity syndrome. The stomach goes up, up to the esophagus, up here to the head and neck area. So it makes sense that they may be at increased risk for developing because of the chronic irritation.
Yun po ba yung normal na acid?
Yes, the gastroesophageal reflux. Kaya kapag hindi tayo natutunawan, yung parang you feel na may acid, that is a GERD.
Okay.
That is a GERD. And people with long-standing GERD can have chronic irritation. So yes, pwedeng magka-develop. Pwedeng magka-develop dito sa ilalim natin yan. Sa itaas, hindi pa natin alam.
Okay. Kasi, Doc, parang ako rin, meron din akong, parang normal din na magka-acid yung...
That's why we want to control it. That's why we also want to control it. What we can control, we will try to control. Like lifestyle, like intervening disease, which can predispose to certain types of cancers also.
Okay. Now, thank you so much for your Doc. And that wraps out our segment. Thank you, Doc, for helping us separate conceptions from the truth. But when we come back, we'll be discussing some of the treatments cancer. Plus, we'll be asking the questions. How can we do this? As cover these questions.
Thank you.
We are happy to be part of this global activity of spreading awareness against cancer. UST Hospital, together with the Thomasian Community, is working together to educate our medical staff and patients to contribute in making this world a cancer-free place. Through this effort, may we promote healthy lifestyle, enhance awareness among Filipino people, and make a mark in reducing the global impact of cancer. We salute the men and women who continuously fight to survive and win this battle against cancer. Together, let's close the gap in the treatment of cancer care.
The will to live is a natural desire for all human persons, especially those who are battling diseases just like cancer. The whole Thomasian community, especially the University of Santo Tomas Hospital, through its Benavides Cancer Institute, commits itself in its fight against cancer. Together as Thomasians, let us support those people who have dedicated their lives in terms of their research and study about cancer. Let us hope and pray for cancer patients that they may have renewed faith and hope that their health may be restored and that happiness may reign in their families. God bless us all.
Welcome back, viewers. Before we went on a short break, we discussed what head and neck cancers are and played a round of mythical operations. For this segment, we'll be diving into discussing the treatments, lifestyle changes, and prevention of head and neck cancers. So, Doc Mahiya, I hope you're still up for discussing one last segment with us.
Let's go.
All right. So, Doc, on to the first question. As students, are there any activities that us Thomasians may frequently habit that could heighten the chances of getting head and neck cancers?
Right, college.
Yes, college
You're
living.
always driven by, hormones, excitation, and all of that. Number one, I think stop smoking. If you haven't smoked yet, don't pick up the habit. If you're already a smoker, please stop. It will not only prevent head and neck cancers, it will help prevent lung cancer, prevent other cancers as well, like bladder cancers. So if you are smoking, try to stop. One, ease up on the alcohol. Everything in moderation. So basically, these two already give us a very, very good chance of decreasing our chances of contracting head and neck cancer later in life.
Okay, next question, Doc. Are there any preventive measures that a Thomasian could easily take in order to avoid getting this type of cancer?
Again, it's always if the lifestyle preventative things. Mentioned your segment: the smoking, the drinking, controlling controlling the acid to avoid GERD, and not just as Thomasians. I think of the bigger Filipino community, and we have a very high smoke rate. So I think it's good to have smoking cessation. It's good to have things like Alcoholics Anonymous to help prevent not just head and neck cancers but cancers in general.
Okay, next question, Doc. So is there any crucial or should be changed in the lifestyle of a patient who is under treatment, especially radiation?
What we always tell patients, is to, number one, buhay tayo eh. So we need to live life. I have a lot of my patients, Doc, I'm already on a plant-based diet. Are you enjoying? Yes, I am. Okay, then continue it. There's another thing, Doc, I need, I'm a smoker. I can't stop smoking. Or I have a patient who just, continues drinking. And we tell them to stop. We tell them to stop because even if we cure you of your cancer, you continue smoking, you continue drinking, the chances of sustaining that cure for the rest of your life is actually lessened. So during radiation or after surgery or after chemotherapy, you need to recalibrate. And they usually do. No? Because one of the side effects of radiation is mahirap kumain eh. And then everything tastes. So when the smoking kind of like becomes like irritative. So they are actually forced to stop, which is a good thing.
Which is a good thing. So in your opinion po, why is there a need for head and neck cancer this month?
The thing with head and neck cancers is if you look at the head and neck, ito yung mukhang pinapakita natin sa mundo. All right? The first impression that we have of other people, the head and neck. All of our social activities, eating, smoking, socializing, whatever, lahat yan nasa head and neck. So it is very important to make sure that we preserve everything here, right? Because some of the treatments require surgery, removal of the organ, especially in the more advanced cases. We want to avoid that because our quality of life really depends on a lot of it on what we see, yung mukhang pinapakita natin sa mundo. So we need to be aware that it exists. We also need to be aware that what is common in one part of the world may not be common in another part, right? So, like you cross the Pacific to the United States, they don't see nasopharyngeal cancers. You cross the Pacific back here, Southeast Asia, it is the #1 head and neck cancer outside of thyroid. You cross back to the Pacific, you see a lot of the tonsil cancers, which we see very rarely here. So it's not just head and neck cancer awareness in general, but a local awareness of what common head and neck cancers we see.
That was really enlightening, Doc. Well said, and thank you so much for taking the time to be here on Lifeline and answering all of our questions about head and neck cancers. I hope, Doc, you enjoyed being here just as much as we enjoyed you having here in our show. In honor of Head and Neck Cancer Awareness Month, all of the staff here on Lifeline hope that this episode did its purpose of adding knowledge to your arsenal of comprehension. Because, as they say, knowledge is power. Always feel the roar by following us on our Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok and YouTube page at UST Tiger TV and at UST Tiger Radio. Once again, I am Pao Cruz, and this has been Lifeline, where we improve our lives by feeding our minds.